Welcome today to the webinar. Thanks for joining us and hanging out today. We're going to be having a great time. I hope you're going to just be able to really just sit down and listen and comprehend a lot of things going to be talking about today on execution management to executive leadership. So we want to start thinking as leaders and thinking obviously as executive leaders. And we're going to talk a lot about that. So if that's why you're here today, you're at the right webinar. And I think you're going to gain a lot of information from that. So who is this for? This webinar is for high performing leaders and executives, people who are leading businesses, organizations that are really wanting to grow. Maybe you feel stuck or on a plateau yourself, or possibly your organization. And so we're going to talk more about that today. So if that's who you are, you're at the right place. And we're going to I am so pumped about this. We've worked a lot with our team getting prepared for the webinar and for all the things that we're going to be doing for leaders, and just it's all coming together in such a great way. There's a saying that I've had for a long time that simply says there are growing pains and there are dying pains. Now, both of them are painful, right? But I think I would be truthful to say I'd rather have the growing pains than the dying pains anytime. The growing pains may hurt, but you're going somewhere. So I'd rather have those things 6 days a week and twice on Sunday versus the dying pains. So you may wonder, even what do we do? And when you're talking about even what do I do? Well, I develop high-performing leaders to develop emerging leaders. We want you to be able to not only develop yourself and work at becoming a greater and a better, more effective leader, but we also want you to know how to lead others and to grow emerging leaders, which helps your job, quite frankly, go better, doesn't it? And so I was listening one day and I heard a story about Muhammad Ali, the great boxer, of course, from yesteryear. And man, he was just awesome. And he had a personality bigger than himself, probably. And it was said that Muhammad Ali got on an airplane one day, and when he was sitting there, the attendant came by and said, "I want you to fasten your seatbelt." And Muhammad Ali looked at the flight attendant and he said, "Superman don't wear no seatbelt." And the flight attendant looked back at Muhammad Ali and she said, "Superman don't need no airplane either. So you buckle up." And so I don't know where you are as a leader, but I want to tell you right now, buckle up, because we're about to hit this thing hard for the next 45 minutes. I'm going to give you hopefully some things that you're going to take away that will be action-packed, that will be relevant to who you are and to what you need. We work with executive leaders from all across the spectrum, and we found 4 specific things. There could be others, but 4 real specific things that all leaders seek. One is more revenue, trying to make more money themselves, their organization, or maybe they need more help with their leadership skills. Or the third thing is possibly they want to lead better through change. And then the last thing might be they want to become more effective and efficient at what they're doing and to do it well. As we've worked with a lot of different leaders, our clients have had a lot of success and we've seen them grow and grow their organization. But I want to show you some things that we've worked with them on that we have found that they've either from their competencies or achievements has changed the trajectory of what they're doing. So the first one you see here is I want to help talk about leading yourself well mentally, physically, and emotionally. Now, in the majority of professionals, I think you could probably say this at some point in your time and career, your life, whether it's now or in the past, you feel overworked, under-rested, even maybe not exercising like you should, perpetually exhausted. We hear those things. Giving your leftovers to your family or to the people or the things that you really love to do, which leaves you guilty, leaves you feeling disengaged. That weighs on you mentally and physically and emotionally, no doubt. The problem with working more or longer hours is that hours are a finite resource. So you can only put so many hours in a day. So there's only so much output you can do when you go that way. The Stanford Graduate School of Business Advisory, they asked the question, what is the single most important capability to leaders that they need to develop? And the answer overwhelmingly was self-awareness. Learning to read the signals, the mental signals, the physical signals, the emotional signals that I know are there, but I've been avoiding. One we talk about a lot, obviously, is burnout. People get burned out. Sometimes we say it's burnout, but it's not really burnout. But burnout is not just feeling tired of doing something that energizes you or something you're gifted to do. Burnout is doing something you shouldn't do for a prolonged period of time. You know, the best time to do something you should do is when you don't feel like doing it or when you don't want to do it, like exercise. Who wants to get off the couch or the sofa or your lazy chair when you need to go to the gym? You'd rather be there eating a bowl of ice cream if you're like me, but that's the time to do it. Burnout is a state of emotional, physical, mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged, remember that, stress. So if I ask you the question, how much emotional energy do you have? You know, we often talk about, we'll say, hey, have you ever had one of those months where you ran out of money before you ran out of month? I think we could all relate to that. But my question to you would be, do you ever run out of emotional or creative energy before you should? I like to play golf, and golf is 10% physical, 90% mental. And, you know, I would probably add so are most jobs. So it weighs on you mentally, emotionally, and obviously there are different kind of jobs out there. One of the things that we work with our clients to help and, you know, to really understand is what I call the POP rhythm, POP, which stands for personal optimum performance. When you really know what your pop is and you understand what that pop does for you, it brings the creativity out so that you can be energized. 20% of our creative ideas come when we're engaged in activities, listen to this, other than work. The brain thrives on fun and laughter and meaningful relationships. So you need to think about how do you have the right optimum performance. We'll talk about stress a little bit more in a minute, but prolonged stress has a huge impact on you in a lot of different ways. Some pathologists suggest that prolonged and intense stress causes aging of the tissues at the cellular level. What that means is you start looking and feeling older than you probably actually are. Another issue that could happen is an immune system malfunctions. So now you're more susceptible to physical illnesses and things that you might catch or do. And then also cardiovascular catastrophes. So stress brings on strokes, heart attacks. I mean, I'm sounding really positive today, but I'm trying to show you that leading yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally is the critical thing that you need to know before it's too late. You want to have a plan. You want to work on these things before it comes to what there's a term called critical mass. Critical mass is when you've gone so long doing something, and now if it was a bell curve, you've crossed the top of the hill, and as you're going down the hill, it's too hard to turn back now. It's kind of what we would call the point of no return. It's the point where it's not if something will happen, but when it will happen and what is going to happen when it does. So creating guardrails and margins, which I want to go into, is kind of the preventive maintenance, getting a plan together. Another thing that we have really found in working with our clients is learning how to achieve this, developing the self-confidence that you can lead at the level you desire. Now listen to this next phrase. 40% of new executives fail within the first 18 months. Why don't leaders make it often? Well, there could be a variety of reasons, but one of the things we know is often they keep doing the same things that got them there instead of learning to lead like a leader instead of the contributor that they were prior. When you think about high performers and executive kind of leaders, we're often elevated to executive level and then left to figure it out. Hopefully you'll just know what to do because you must be smart, you must have drive, or you wouldn't be in this position or we wouldn't have given it to you. But if you keep doing all the things you did as a contributor, listen to this, you won't have time to lead. Successful leaders really dig into transformational leadership, transforming who you are in some major steps that allows you to become what you want to be. Peter Drucker, great, obviously, mind if you study anything in the leadership world, predicted some of the 20th century's biggest changes. One of them was, even back then, that the Japanese would rise to the world economic power. He talked about the age where people would need to learn in order to keep their jobs or to get ahead. That had never been going on up to that point. He brought in the first thinking about marketing and innovation in leading. He coined a term called knowledge worker. It really means a person that has to keep learning in order to keep working or to keep their job. But I want to contend to you today that you and I need to be knowledge leaders. We need to continually change. We need to continually sharpen. We need the iron sharpening iron. We need to continually have the knowledge that we can become a better leader. Peter Drucker also said, if you want something new, you have to stop doing something old. How about this quote? John Rockefeller said, good leadership consists of showing average people how to do the work of superior people. So think about developing the self-confidence you could lead at another level. What would that do for you? But then let's talk about another experience that I want you to see and our leaders are seeing, and that is building guardrails and creating margins to protect your time and relationships. Now, the majority of professionals, as I said a little earlier, we're overworked and underrested. Can I get a witness? I mean, if you rose to the level that you are, if you're an executive or if you're a leader of people or a leader of organizations, I can tell you there's a lot going on in your mind, on your calendar, a lot happening. And when you really have to leave, I guess, a lot of yourself on the table, it only gives you leftovers for your family, your friends, for other things that you're passionate about. I mean, giving leftovers makes us feel guilty. I know I should have come home earlier. I know I should have been at my son's ball game. I realize I should have, gone out with our friends. I realize that I missed that opportunity to help serve or do something for one of my team members. And so we get disengaged. We get dissatisfied with ourselves and even disgusted sometimes with ourselves. So what is a guardrail? It's a barrier to protect you. It protects you. If you think about riding up the road, the guardrails protect you from running off the road, from running off a cliff, from going off an embankment. So it guards you from getting off course. It keeps you focused where you need to go. Another aspect of guardrails, though, it could be the flip side. The guardrails could keep you from running over other people or from running over other things. So it could be that people are standing behind the guardrails and the guardrails keeps you from hitting them, from running into them, from hurting them. And let's face it, when we get in stress mode or overwhelmed or under-rested, we start swerving, if you will, on the road. Our purpose gets off track, and often the first things that we wreck are our relationships, personal and professional. Or we wreck ourselves mentally, as we talked about, emotionally, physically. And our relationships and personal growth are being killed by a term. I want you to listen to this. By leadership velocity. What it is I need to do it more and I need to do it faster. And so we just keep doing this faster and more and faster and more and faster and more. And before long, our vehicle, our truck, our body, if you will, is overwhelmed and it cannot continue on. And so, unfortunately, the first people that generally experience those effects of us overdoing it is our spouse, our children, our closest friends. And many of them have been left wounded down the road. Let's just face it. What good is it if you succeed at money, if you succeed at your business, if you succeed at all these kinds of things and achieving, but you don't get to enjoy the people and the reason that you work in the first place? So you can't be all things to all people. Nobody can, but you can be that person for a few people, or for a few opportunities, or for a few relationships, or for maybe even giving back to something you're passionate about. Now listen to this. It takes intentionality and discipline, but the rewards are much greater than a pay raise or a bonus or even a new title. When you feel like you're riding in your quote unquote vehicle and you're out of control, I mean, it's just going everywhere. The guardrails are not there. The margins are not there. And that's really the same thing. You want to do this. First thing, if that thing's out of control, you got to regain control of the progress and the speed. We got to slow down. You need some time. And I'm telling you, we get into this with our clients. What are you doing to slow your time down? What are you doing to rejuvenate? How do you plug back in? How do you put fuel, if you will, back in your tank? Have you ever been driving and man, it's just intense. It could be weather, it could be traffic, or your mind is on something and you realize that you're just gripping the steering wheel and your knuckles are white. There's no reason, but it's just, you're so intense. You don't realize it, but you are, if you will, out of control at the moment. And so we have to slow our progress down. Then I would also say if a vehicle is out of control, you not only regain the control, but you need to redirect the destination. So you need to think, I'm going toward the curve. I'm going toward the embankment. As a parent who had children who are now grown and have come through those driving years, isn't that scary for every parent if you've been there? One of the things that we learned years ago was many of the young drivers, their wreck and their accidents was caused because they would run off the road and then they would correct. And when they corrected back up on the road, it would overcorrect and go to the other side of the ditch and possibly turn over or wreck into someone or something there. So I always taught my children, if you run off the road, the first thing to do is just let off of the pedal, slow down, get your speed down, and do not get back up on the road until it's proper. It's the right time. You've slowed down right, unless there's something in front of you. Then at the proper time, pull back up on the road. That's exactly how we need to think about in building our guardrails and our margins in our own life. We need to think about when and how is the proper way to get some things back on track. Many people are on a trajectory to go somewhere, but it may be somewhere they don't want to go. There's no Chinese proverb that says, if we don't change the direction we're going, we're likely to end up where we're headed. So I think it's very imperative that you think about building guardrails, creating margins to protect those things that are most important to you. And then let's talk about experiencing something that should make all of us want to be involved, and that is waking up every day feeling confident and secure about your future. Now, obviously, there could be some financial things there, and I'm not even going to get into that today. We could help with that, but thinking about your future is really thinking about where you're headed, what you're doing, a little what we talked about in the previous one. Personal success can be achieved when your work aligns with your purpose. I mean, we've all heard the saying, if you get up every day and do what you love, you'll never work another day in your life. Let me ask you the question, when's the last time you truly felt that your work aligned with your purpose? I mean, what are you passionate about? Is it incorporated into your personal and professional daily life? You know, when you get to be a certain age and a certain level, it may not be about money anymore. It may not be about a title anymore. It may not be about achieving something like that anymore. It could be now you're thinking more about legacy. What is my legacy going to be? What will I leave? What will I be able to leave behind me other than just money and things? You know, we all want to leave an inheritance for our children or grandchildren. But listen to this. An inheritance is something you leave for someone. A legacy is something you leave in someone. Legacies can go for generations past us. and can change lives of people after we're gone or after we're off of the main scene, if you will, in retiring or whatever we do. Someone once said, don't live the same year 75 times and call it a life. Man, there's a lot to experience, a lot to look for. Listen to this phrase. Hope is not a strategy, and denial is not a solution. Hoping things will change, denying that things need to change, it's not going to get you where you need to go. So what is your strategy? How do you plan to get there? Brene Brown said this, quote, when we own our own stories, we avoid being trapped as characters in a story someone else is telling. Wow. Do you ever feel like you're just a rat in the race of life in somebody else's story, somebody else's life? They're just telling you what to do and you're finishing your life. You're going through maybe now in some of the greatest days of your life could be, but you're doing it for someone else and doing it in a way that's not passionate. There's nothing wrong to work with someone else and work for someone else, but are you doing it with passion? Do you feel as though this is part of my purpose? When's the last time you celebrated a personal or professional win? Man, we're good at conquering. We're good at goals. We're good at driving. We're good at, man, if I could go do these things, if I could accomplish that. But as soon as we accomplish one thing, we go to tackle another. We head somewhere else. We desire another goal. We go after something more. We make this money. We need to make more. We get this promotion. I need another. At some point, that will lead to futility. It does not lead to purpose, but purpose, knowing why you're here and what excites and energizes and motivates you, is life-changing. It is game-changing. It allows you to see yourself duplicated and replicated in other things and other people and other processes. It's generosity at scale. It allows you to become what you want to be and do it at the same time you're putting out and you're doing the things that excite you. Dr. Marcia Reynolds, she says this about women, but I think it could also obviously be said of men. She said, quote, for smart, goal-driven women, a midlife crisis isn't about recovering lost youth. It's about discovering the application of their greatness. Wow. I think all of us want to have a life of significance. Again, there's that legacy, something that outlasts us, something that is, it's going to make a difference. You may have not thought about this in the past. You may not work through these things. This may never come into your purview. It may not have been in your vision, or maybe it was at some time and you got off course. You didn't build a guardrail. There was no margin there. And you say, man, I've really messed up some things. I've screwed some things up at this point. What do I do from here? I mean, my past, it is what it is, and I don't know what to do about it. But let me just say this. Living on purpose allows you to first recover from your past. I don't know about you, but at the stage of life I'm at, I've learned a lot of things. I've passed some good tests. I failed some, but hopefully even the things I failed, I learned from. So recover from your past if you're living on purpose. The second thing is enjoy your present. So get up today, get up in the morning and start waking up with confidence that you're doing something, that you're going to accomplish something, that you are passionately aware that it makes a difference in your life and the lives of those you love and maybe the world, whatever that is your passion. So recover from your past, enjoy your present, but then anticipate the future. Man, get up thinking, wow, if I can accomplish this, look what that will do. See where this is heading. See where we are going. John Maxwell says, if you're out and you're walking and you think you're leading and you turn around and no one is following, you're not leading, you're just out taking a walk. So leaders build the guardrails and wake up every day feeling confident that they're on track with their purpose and for their future. Another thing that we've often seen in when working with our clients is they achieve this: defining your stress triggers and avoiding your stress reactions. When you can define these things in your life, it is a game changer. So listen to this thought. What triggers you controls you. Do you get that? What triggers you controls you. So usual behavior, we work through some very intense assessments to help you that are psychological assessment, that things on an executive level that can walk through 9 behaviors and some other pieces of your life that really helps you to define what you are from an emotional intelligence standpoint, what you're gifted to be and to do, and what you're passionate about. And one thing we know is there's a usual behavior, and it's your productive and positive behavior that you exhibit when everything's going well. You might call it your strengths. When everything is right, this is how you act. This is who you are. That's your usual behavior. But for that to happen, there has to be some needs that must be met. Your needs are how we want to be treated or supported or motivated. It's what we expect to see from others or from our environment. Our needs are our expectations. So your usual behavior is who you are when everything's great. And so you have needs, and if those needs are met, then you get to see your usual behavior. But we know that if the needs are not met, there are stress behavior and stress reactions. Stress reactions are things in your life. It's the behavior that may occur when you feel frustrated or stressed. Your needs haven't been met for a prolonged period of time. Your stress behavior is your stress reactions or your distress. Look at this graphic. Others know us by our usual behavior. There's the fruit, there's the tree. They see the color, they see who we are. But our needs are critical to really understand who we are. So there are specific needs that you have, and if those needs are met, man, you get to operate in awesome usual behavior. But if those needs are not met, you got to just face it. There'll be stress reactions. That tree will start to die. The water doesn't get there. The fertilizer doesn't get there. The sun doesn't hit it. The colors turn brown instead of bright. Now, let's just face it. In the corporate world, and even in society in general, it's designed toward increasing stress. It's designed toward adding complexity to your life, to multiplying intensity, to constantly changing. That's what society brings. That's the reason if you have no guardrails built in, it will stifle your expression. It stifles your creativity. It'll cause you to exhibit stress reactions. Imagine driving and there's a 5,000-foot cliff to the side and there is no guardrail there. And you're having to pass someone slowly around that curve on the mountain, and one wrong move and you're gone 5,000 feet. That could cause stress in your driving and stress in what you're doing. But it's totally different if there's a big wall there, a concrete barrier, if there's a guardrail that keeps you from knowing that you cannot run off that cliff. You have stress reactions. You know, when you don't have guardrails in this and you get stressed, your reactions slow your speed of service. You don't think on your feet as quick. You're not as apt to jump out and do something on the spur of the moment and know how to do it well because you're not thinking well. It causes you to make more mistakes. There's a lot of data out there that proves that people working in a stressful culture, in an environment that is stressed to them, it causes more mistakes on the team. So we want to help you develop that action plan around every one of those stress behaviors. Just like a check engine light, when it pops on your car, don't get mad at the light. Be thankful for the light. When you see your stress reactions, as soon as you see them, don't stay there, but be thankful that you are aware what they are, because now you know that that's really an indicator that something else is going on and you need to deal with it. Kathleen Bryant said, as a leader, your every action has a consequence. So make sure it's one you intended. Another if you want to call it competency or area of achievement that we want you to get a hold and think about is maximizing your business acumen and education skills for a competitive advantage. So obviously business acumen is a well-known term, but it just means the keenness and quickness in understanding business situations that produce great outcomes. So you have the knowledge in the business, and when something happens, you know what to do. You're quick to make the shift and to do that. That doesn't just come by accident. It doesn't just happen. We know that leadership is not a skill, it's a position. But as you become a greater leader, what we do know then is you better become more skilled. You must work on the skills. To succeed in business, there's a lot of things that you should have. And one that I often talk about is character, chemistry, competency, and capacity. So everyone should have character. Some may have the chemistry for the team, for the organization. Others may have the competency, but not everyone will have the capacity. So it's one thing to have acumen, it's another thing, or the knowledge, but it's another thing to have the execution skill and the capacity to be able to pull it off and to do what needs to be done. So if I ask you the question, how are you expanding your capacity? What would that be? I mean, we expand our capacity when we're hired and we begin our careers and because we're trying to grow. But often as we get into certain points of leadership and positions, we kind of scale back. We kind of ride, if you will. We settle down and we feel like, well, I'm here. And so I just need to make sure that everyone else does their jobs well. And while that is very important and very serious, we got to think about ourselves. What are you doing to grow yourself? We train when we're starting out. We learn when we want to move up. But often we plateau or we get stuck at a certain point of our leadership career. And you have to have those execution skills if you're going to grow with the acumen. It's not just enough to know business, but you need to have the execution skills to make it happen for you and for those you lead. You know, I want to throw this out here. You stop growing when you stop being thirsty. Remember, what got you here may not get you there. And so if you don't make the shifts and the changes, and I want to talk about a few of those in just a moment, then you're going to miss that acumen. You're going to miss that execution skill. James Clear said, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, or I could say your execution. We've all heard if you plan to fail, you'll ultimately, or if you fail to plan, you'll ultimately plan to fail. You need to stop. Now listen to this. You need to stop being so busy that you feel like that is equating to productivity. In today's world, we maintain, we've got to have a competitive advantage. And to do that successfully, you've got to know what you do and you got to do it well. No doubt about it. You got to know what your competitors are not doing well, but you got to also know what the market will need so that you can prepare to do that well in the future. We know this, 70% of projects that fail due to poor execution. Generally, it's not that they didn't have the knowledge, they didn't have the specs, they didn't know what to do. It's the fact that they didn't do it well. There's something called straddling, and that's where you continue to utilize your business strategy and do your things and do them well. But at the same time, you start adopting a new piece of strategy, maybe a competitor strategy with yours that works with you, or adapting a piece of what the market needs and the strategy that. And so you're growing, if you will, you're growing your business and knowledge, your acumen, but you're also growing your execution skills, learning to do it consistently well. The last one I want to talk about as far as achievement or maybe as far as even competency would be cracking the code of how to scale your capacity as a leader. Now, leading people is difficult, isn't it? I heard someone years ago say, the more I'm around leading people, the more I love horses. Maybe you could all relate to that. So leading people is tough, no doubt about it. But I'm telling you, leading others is not nearly as difficult as leading yourself. To lead yourself well, you'll have to be more strategic. You'll have to make some disruptive changes. You have to change your schedule, maybe. You have to change your thinking. You have to change some of the old patterns that you've done, leading yourself. To lead others well, you have to know how to connect, how to motivate, how to inspire a sense of ownership around shared objectives with them. To lead organizations well, you have to reproduce yourself and improve and produce systems for others to follow. I think we could all probably say at some point we've been busy doing the wrong things. As a leader, if you're just redistributing your responsibility to others, the organization is not maintaining, or it's not growing, it's maintaining. As you scale your capacity, then others can be given a portion of your load. And if you're a real leader, when you give a portion of your load to them, you have capacity again, and you're going to go fill it up with something greater, bigger, because that's what leaders do. Leadership is influence. Now listen to these steps that I like to talk about it this way. Leadership is influence. Influence comes with respect. Respect is a result of accomplishment. Accomplishment comes through consistency. Consistency requires discipline. Discipline is a direct result of focus. And focus is based on priorities. Priorities come from a purpose, and your purpose is your why. So if you want to be a leader with influence, you got to start with your why. You got to know your why. When you learn how to scale your leadership, it invigorates you to use that extra capacity to grow again. There are some things I hope I never have to do again. I hope I've grown past those. I hope that I don't have to do those. But there are others who are growing, and they would love to be able to do those. So learning how to scale, we call it the KPIs, the key performance indicators that allow you to measure how you scale yourself as a leader. It's critical. So here's my promise to you. I don't know that we'll work together. Just being honest. You may not be ready to work. But if we do, my promise is you'll gain clarity, confidence, and vision to relaunch as an executive leader. Thinking about what you do and why. Maybe you've seen from the website, but ask yourself some of these questions. Does this describe you? I'm confused about what to do next. I'm not leading myself or others well right now. I need more focus on my family and other relationships. I feel less secure financially than I have in the past. My level of stress is affecting my health. And maybe even sometimes I question my own ability to lead. Does that sound like you? How would you rate yourself on those things? That should tell you a lot about where you are. So here's the big questions, 3 of them. What will it cost you if you don't figure it out? Emotionally, mentally, physically, relationally, professionally, personally. What is it going to cost you? The second thing or question you want to ask yourself is, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? Continuing on this journey, continuing where you are. Are you headed where you want to go? And are you getting there the way you want to get there? And then the last question is, are you secretly afraid that you might be stuck in a job you hate forever? Or maybe stuck doing or being something you're really not wanting to be and do forever? How do you answer those questions? When you think about what those questions are, it helps you to think about and envision the future. So what would it look like for you if you could wake up every morning and attack the day instead of dreading the day? What would it look like for you if there was a heightened awareness of your blind spots, the things that you had not been aware of? Now you understand them and you're watching for them, and you have a plan to turn them around and to use those for benefit. What if you got up and your coworkers, when you went to work, your direct reports, maybe even people you report to, they see a drive about you because you know where you're going, and there's a passion, there's a light back in your eyes again. There's something there that says, I enjoy doing what I do. What would it look like for you if the margins that you created in your calendar would allow you to add a day back every week? I mean, what if it changed the way you did things? So maybe you're wondering who I am. Who am I talking? What am I? Well, I'm Rodney Egan. I have a PhD in leadership. I consider myself to be a culture shaper, a people encourager, a team builder, a thought provoker, a high-level energy leader. I love what I do. I'm the CEO and the founder of Connexus Group. We do executive coaching, leadership development. We work with teams and organizations from all across the board and across the United States. We've worked with large companies with well over 100,000 employees, down to solopreneur entrepreneurs that are trying to get their business off the ground. And so we have coaches now that are certified, and we work through a lot of our systems. We've been doing this for many years. And so we've seen a lot of success with a lot of our people. Worked, as I said, with a lot of different organizations, and you can see some of them there, and there are others that probably would be added to the list. So I want to shift your leadership thinking as we start gearing down, and thanks for hanging in here with me. We're gearing down. If you want to even work on, there's a schedule, your discovery call there to the right. You can book a meeting directly with me. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. We will shift your leadership thinking so that the first thing you can do is lead with conviction and passion again. I mean, conviction means I get up and I know what I'm doing. I'm experienced in this, and I'm on the right trail. The second thing is we want you to shift where you start to grow your worth. Don't just earn what you make, grow what you're worth. I mean, man, be so worth something that people around you cannot do without you. And we do that by we have Connexus Executive Leadership Program. This is a program that you'll begin to hear more about that allows you to get certificates as you complete them, and then have a Connexus Executive Leadership certification you can use for your bio, your resume, but most of all, you can use to change life and to do things differently in the way you work and live. And we do that through a proprietary learning experience process. If you put together some of our top minds in Connexus Group, hundreds of years of leadership and of people and of experience, and we've pulled all that together, and we've been trying it, we've been utilizing it, we've been putting it as boots on the ground for years with clients, and now we've seen it work. And then the last thing is you've got to be willing to shift to think about, how do I invest in myself? If you're not willing to invest in yourself, probably nobody else will. No one else will see the need. And so you have to think about that. And what are you willing to do? Our clients have experienced a lot of different paradigm shifts. I'll give you 3 quick ones. I have a wealth manager that I worked with. He was a solopreneur when we started, very frustrated about his cap on his income. He made good money, but he wasn't going where he wanted to go. And so as we began to work together, this is a solopreneur, just a one-person show, right? But as we set up a system, he began to scale what he was doing and redirect the way he was doing and channel things in a different way and train others. And today he has wealth managers in various states, and they're making money for him when he's not even working. That's a good outcome. And he gets to enjoy the people he wants to work with now. Another example would be a CEO of a very large manufacturing company that we've been working for off and on for years. And they have different large divisions, and all of these divisions have become silos to the point that they were even antagonistic against each other. So much so that they're almost working against each other versus in tandem to support each other. We started implementing some of our tools and our leadership thinking and retooling the way they were thinking, and saw some significant change. And the CEO called me one day and he said, "You're not going to believe it, but the changes that we've made," he said, "we're seeing now for the first time," I think back then was even an $8 million month in this one division, which was unheard of. And he said, "Now we've seen this consistently month after month." A third and final one I might tell you about is, you may have heard of Chick-fil-A. We're an approved vendor for Chick-fil-A operators, and we've worked with many different operators in many states for their restaurants. Some of these that came to us that realize that they're trying to build a bench to move from one restaurant to 2 or 3 restaurants. And we've been able to help them do that and designate a plan to build a bench so that they could move their team into execution and be prepared to split a team and move it into another way. And so we've seen them actually now multiply into multiple restaurants and use the very things that we train, even at that level, can be replicated. And so I want to just tell you, I promise you, there's some things that I want for you. And I want you to, as we said, lead yourself well, mentally, physically, emotionally, develop self-confidence that you need as a leader to lead at the level that you desire. I want you to build guardrails and create margins to protect your relationships and your time. I want you to wake up every day feeling confident and secure about your future. I want you to define your stress triggers. I want you to avoid the stress reactions and to know a plan of how to do that. I want you to be able to maximize your business acumen and execution skills for a competitive advantage. And I want you to crack the code to scale your capacity so that you can be the executive leader you need to be. So again, my promise to you is if we work together, you're going to gain clarity, confidence, and vision to relaunch as an executive leader. Now, I want you to lead with conviction and passion. I want you to grow who you're worth. I want you to see how we can use some tools that can help change you and do that. But really, it's up to you. You have a choice. You have to make that decision. Now, some might say, is he just trying to sell me to get into something? I'm going to be real honest with you. I'm not looking for everybody. I'm looking for specific high-capacity leaders and executives building business or organization that are seriously hungry to grow, that are ready for a change, that are anxious to get started. You see, if I'm just going to give you systems and help you walk through things, and that's not in you and wanting to, you're not going to see significant change. But I want to have clients that I've seen not just the needle move, but shift. I want to see things happen that can give you back the life that you've wanted to do and allow you to grow to another level. And I believe with all my heart, we can get there if you're hungry to do that. So we're going to be launching a specific proprietary course. It's just going to be for leaders like you. And it's going to be an 8-week relaunch is what we're calling it, Leadership Relaunch. And you can go to leadershiprelaunch.com, or you should see the little blue button with the, if you go over to the offers, and it'll show you how to go directly and book right on my calendar. You're going to be able to book with us a 30-minute discovery call. It's free. It's not going to cost anything. We just want to get to know you. Not sure. We want to hear your heart, and we want you to see us and see how we might potentially work together. I want to encourage you, if you're really hungry, if you're really ready for a change, what I've done is the next 2 days, I've opened up my schedule, and in the mornings, the next 2 mornings, and then starting in early next week, there's open slots on that schedule that I specifically, intentionally have left there. So when you go to leadershiprelaunch.com and you go to the bottom of the page, you're going to see how to book directly on my calendar. And you and I are going to have a phone call. Love to talk to you. Love to meet you. Love to hear your heart of what you're doing and what you want to do. And we're getting ready to launch this group, and it'll be launched in about a month. So we don't have a lot of time, got a lot of things to happen. And so if you're going to be part of it, we already have some getting in, and I want you to be part of that if that defines who you are. While we're leaving that up there, leadershiprelaunch.com, let me leave you with a thought. Don't fear failure. Fear being in the exact same place next year as you are today. Think about what it means to lead and what it's going to take to change so that you can lead. I believe Leadership Relaunch, you'll get a certificate at the end of that, And that'll be valuable, and you can use it on your bio, your resume, but not nearly as valuable as hopefully the change you're going to see in your personal and professional life. Thanks for hanging out. Love to see you. You can schedule a call and we'll set it up, and you and I'll talk and just get to know each other. And I'd love to see you as part of our exclusive 8-week leadership relaunch. Have a great day.